Hi, I'm Rebecca Sanders, Consumer Investigations reporter for the Arizona Republic and azcentral.com. And we're here to talk about, is it possible to get a college degree in Arizona for cheap? And what are the best ways to do that? And so we're gonna have a little conversation about what it's like to pay for college for all of you recent high school grads and folks who are trying to make that plan for the next 4 years. And at the end of the video, we'll have all the best concrete tips for you to save money as well as links. So I'm here today with Rachel.
I'm Rachel Langang. I cover higher education here at the Republic, and I wrote a story about how to save money in some unique and not as obvious ways.
And I'm John Deanna. I am a senior content strategist and page one editor here at the Arizona Republic. And I'm also a parent who is almost done putting my second child through college.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's almost better than their graduation.
The last tuition payment is next month, and I can't wait.
Fantastic. Rachel, just set this up for us. What is, the typical cost of a college education in Arizona versus nationally? Like, what's the sticker shock that people should be looking for?
So the Arizona Board of Regents just set its new rates for next year. So if you're going to be going to ASU, University of Arizona, or Northern Arizona University, you'll probably pay between $10,000 and $12,000 for tuition and fees, and that's if you live here already.
And that's per year?
Per year. And then that doesn't include, there's housing costs, there's books, there are, parking, any number of additional expenses, and then, eating food you probably need to eat. So all told, you could be looking at, in the $50,000 range over the course of the 4 years for in-state students. It's a lot higher. If you're coming from California or, another state in the U.S., you'll pay a lot more.
You're doing the out-of-state tuition.
Right, yeah, and usually that's about 3 times as much.
So is it more affordable on average to go to a state Arizona school versus nationally?
It's about on par with the national average. So the College Board said the national average for tuition was almost $10,000. We're in that range. In Arizona, their graduates are typically graduating with a little bit less debt, usually around $24,000 to $25,000, and that's if you got loans. Some students, there's probably about half of students don't get any sort of debt. They usually use grants, their parents help pay for them, any number of scholarships, all sorts of things that they don't need to take on debt.
Okay. And you mentioned out-of-state tuition. John, we just had a major court ruling dealing with out-of-state tuition for people who live here in Arizona. Can you tell us a little bit more about that case?
Rachel would probably be a lot better schooled on it than I am because I did not cover that, but so I'll defer to her on that. But one thing I'd like to say about what she mentioned about those extra expenses, that's one thing that parents really need to keep an eye out for, because as much planning as my wife and I did for the kids, and we knew when the tuition was due and we knew when the rent and the housing was due, one of the things that always seemed to trip us up was, oh, I forgot to tell you, Mom and Dad, I need, $1,000 for this fee or this, that just these unexpected pop-ups, and those were just killers.
Rachel, can you talk about part-time enrollment and what you found out about that trend?
So a lot of people will take online classes or a class at a time as they're working, or if they have young children, just to better fit their lifestyle, basically. And pretty much on the whole, if you're doing online only classes, taking them you're paying per credit, you're probably going to save some money that way. I talked to a student this morning who's taking classes through U of A online, and she's in Slovenia preparing for the 2020 Olympics.
Oh,
so
wow.
It really is, it fits flexibility a lot. So, she was saying, I can live both my dreams. I can get an education and I can be in the Olympics, which is a pretty incredible thing.
Right.
More often, I think you hear of people who, maybe they're earlier or mid-career and they want to get a credential or take some sort of class that will help them advance in their career. And doing it in these smaller pieces is usually more manageable than paying a full, $10,000 within 4 months.
Right.
Yeah, I think you have some students when I went to school, everybody was, I have to graduate by this time, and then I have to get the job, and then I have to get on the hamster wheel kind of thing. And I think a lot more people these days are feeling less of that pressure, or they're feeling some financial pressure to piecemeal it out over a longer period of time so that they can keep their day-to-day out-of-pocket costs down.
I do wonder too, I know my generation, like the token millennial, cannot afford a house sort of thing, spending too much money on avocado toast or what have you. I think my sister's a generation below me, and she's planning for college, and I think she's been way more cognizant of cost, having watched her siblings go through college and still being, in your early 30s and paying for tuition is something that she definitely wasn't interested in. So, looking at how other people have done things and looking at a whole generation of people that, their economic prospects are a little stuck because of this big expense, I think you'll see more people trying to do things in a more cost-effective manner.
Right, yeah, I mean, the student loan conversation is way more today than when I was graduating high school, and my teachers were literally telling me, oh, don't worry about the cost, just go to the college that you really love, and it was just, there was no, encouragement to be responsible and really consider the finances as much as the prestige or the program or whatever that you want to go to.
Yeah, and I think it's really important because, you want your child to go to the institution where they're going to fit in, where they really want to, that they really want to be a part of. I've got a lot of friends who have kids who are the same age as my kids, who have had fits and starts with education, and they just, they get into a program, they decide it's not for them, and that's just a lot of money down the drain. So if you can try and keep that down up front. But for our son, he wanted to go to the University of Southern California, has wanted to go there since he was in seventh grade. And he's a legacy. His grandfather went there, my wife went there, both her brothers went there. And so that was really important to him. And we always said, if you get in, and it's a pretty rigorous application process, they don't accept a lot of students. We said, if you get in, we'll find a way to pay for it. Wink, wink. He'll never get in. Guess what? He got in, and then that's when the sticker shock really hit.
Wow.
So,
yeah. Careful what you
careful what you promise. Yes, yes.
So will you tell us a little bit more, John, about just some of the challenges you've experienced, you and your wife, about paying, and maybe some of the strategies that you've found have helped?
Yeah, like a lot of parents, we started out with a 529 program. Unfortunately, our daughter was starting college right as that was being drained by the market crash in the Great Recession. So, that didn't help. I guess my main advice to parents would be, however much money you are saving, double, because there is just no way to predict, like I said, all those out-of-pocket costs. There's no way to predict what the markets are going to do. There's just no way to predict. So if you think it's painful now to save a lot of money, just imagine what it's going to be like when you're actually writing those checks.
Ouch. Well, I guess in my case, some of the ways that I lowered the cost, and I think other students do this as well, is like being a residential advisor, so that at least some of my housing and food was defrayed. There's work-study programs where you can work on campus for a certain number of hours a week and earn a paycheck that can cover some of your expenses. Those were really helpful in my case.
But that gets a little problematic if you have a child who's involved in a lot of activities. They can't necessarily commit to a regular work schedule.
Like your son is an athlete.
My son, yeah, a non-scholarship athlete. He was on the USC hockey team. And they have practices, and they travel for games, so he could not have a real regular work schedule. Yeah. So that became problematic.
Definitely.
So, but yeah, you're right. There are things they can do. He drives Lyft when he comes home on his breaks, and did that all Christmas. He's also, got a a job that he'll go into after graduation, and he started essentially as an intern last summer, and he's kept up his relationship with the company, so he'll be able to do that and at least be making money when he gets out of school, which is good.
Rachel, what are some other tips to keep student loan costs and tuition costs the lowest possible?
So if you're not quite sure what you want to do, starting at community college is a really smart idea. The cost per credit is far lower than university, and if you're going to one in Arizona, the pathways to get from a community college to an Arizona university are pretty easy. They make it really simple to understand, like here are the courses that will count and here's how they will count. And for some programs, you can even stay in community college a little bit longer and save even more money on another year of tuition.
You said if you don't know what you want to do, but sometimes even if you
absolutely,
absolutely.
Yeah, if there's a lot of great community colleges that have excellent programs that feed in really well to universities, so definitely check those out. And then there are other options where you can fast track your degree. I know ASU has a couple dozen where you can finish a degree in like 3 years, so that saves a whole year of tuition, and then you can be working during that year instead.
And that's a little bit harder because your class load is larger?
Your class load is really high, so you pretty much, I mean, you know, you wouldn't be able to be working a whole lot during that time and doing you might be able to do activities, but not probably as many. You'll be taking like 18 to 21 credits, which is a good amount, but it's certainly doable.
There's also some 4+1 programs where you can get a master's degree with just 1 more year extra. The Cronkite School has that. Excuse me.
That's a great option.
One that I was a little surprised by is ASU and U of A and NAU. They all have offshoot campuses. For instance, ASU has a campus in Lake Havasu, and the Lake Havasu tuition is a few $1,000s less than the one in Tempe. So if you want to go, you can live on the beach, basically, go do your homework at the lake. They have fewer programs there, but the tuition is significantly less.
Yeah, that's awesome. So if you're willing to be mobile, you can maybe get a break. The other thing that I was looking at was student loan forgiveness programs. I mean, if you're thinking about this ahead of time, there are programs where you agree to work in a certain place for a certain amount of time, whether it's in a low-income area of the country or on a reservation or in government service, or, you know, there's different opportunities and your loans will be forgiven. And I definitely was not looking at those. I guess maybe because journalists don't really have that option, but I do think that's something to be careful about.
They do have a bit of a long horizon, though, so don't get misled into thinking that, oh, I'll just go to school and then I'll accumulate all these loans and then poof, they're gone, because that's not really how it works. My wife is a teacher. She got her master's degree about 10 years ago. And for teachers, it requires that you make 120 payments, so that's 10 years worth of payments on your student loan before there's any consideration of forgiveness. Okay. So, you know, they do have a bit of a wide time range on that.
And they're always kind of subject to the whims of politics, too.
That's right.
Totally.
So I would say banking on forgiveness is not really the smartest idea, although it's definitely, when you're in that position, you can look at all those options. Right after college, I did AmeriCorps, and AmeriCorps you get paid very little, but afterward you get, it's somewhere in the range of $5,000 to $6,000 to put toward any school expenses. So you can make a loan payment. If you have any outstanding payments for previous college, you can use it to buy like a computer for school, all sorts of different things. So there are a lot of small dollar options like that as well.
Yeah, great. You know, the basic one is to just look for scholarships. And so ASU, NAU, and U of A all have really easy to use web pages that will show you a bunch of scholarships. They even have calculators that you can use to figure out, like, how much aid am I likely to get based on my grade point average and my family's income and these other things.
You're also going to want to look at places where you might not think, starting with your employer. Our employer here at the Arizona Republic, we're owned by Gannett Corporation, and they have a national scholarship program. It's very competitive, but some employers have some generous scholarship programs. Other things you might want to look at is affiliate organizations. VFW, my father was a veteran, and so my son and daughter are eligible for certain scholarships. There are the national, we happen to be Italian American, so the national Italian American groups have scholarships. So those don't always appear on the school websites, but if you poke around on the organizational websites, just the ones that you're affiliated with, you might find something there that your son or daughter might qualify for.
Absolutely. And also, like you said, some employers will offer tuition reimbursement, or Starbucks has some really good partnerships.
Yeah, Starbucks has a partnership with ASU where you can take certain classes, and one option too, I mean, this is sort of a bigger swing, but if you work at a university, you can get tuition usually for free or very reduced